work on it, and you set it aside when you go to the tournament if it sucks, but you keep it in the back of your head and you're like, well, what didn't work, what worked, and then you come back to it. And then you're not afraid to, have a deck that's not very good because you're just trying things. If you're a fledgling deck builder at home, one of the best ways to go about this is twofold: throw it at the wall, see if it sticks, and second, if it's not working, drop it.
And Liu Kai is on the left. He's playing Human Reanimator, and he actually did very well in the Los Angeles Standard Open about a year ago. His take on blue-red Delver at the time with Desperate Ravings actually inspired me to go and build the deck myself. So
now Caleb and I talked about his deck a little bit earlier today, and I had my own thoughts about what I liked or didn't like about this, because this is really more of a green-white mid-range deck. One of the things, he is very happy. He's got a lot of strange numbers, 2s and 3s, that are a little bit surprising for a inexperienced deck builder. But from his perspective, he's tested the heck out of every single one of these cards, and there's only one card that he's not 100% sure of, and that is, does he want to have a third Angel of Serenity or not? He went with 2. So I'm curious what that card is. It ended up being a Selesnya Charm, was his last-minute addition.
Yep. You see Lou ravings away 2 on Burial Rites.
Here's the first real action. We saw the preamble of Faithless Looting and Farseek. Right now, Loxodon Smiter, the first action hitting the table.
Yeah, and a card that has seen... and you see what appears to be a Fiend Hunter?
Fiendy. Yep, well, that's a Fiend Hunter.
Are both the caverns set to human?
Okay, that might be an issue then. If we could talk to our spotter really quick before any further progress happens.
Caleb just playing a 5th land and saying go.
There are 2 caverns on Caleb's side too, which might be the... Yeah, okay. The 2 caverns on Caleb's side are set on Human and Angel, and the 2 caverns on Liu Kai's side are set on Human and Human, so that works just fine.
Yep. Liu flashing back his Faithless Looting right now.
And it looks like I see an Angel of Glory's Rise and a Zealous Conscripts to the yard there. End of the turn, Caleb brings out a Restoration Angel.
Restoration Angel, a plenty fine deal, even if you aren't blinking anything out.
Now, Angel of Glory's Rise is a card that a few months ago, if you had told me was going to see play, I would have been a little surprised. But it's exciting to see how it works in this Human Reanimator deck.
Would you be even more surprised if I told you it was going to be in a Grand Prix winning deck?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, personally, I have to say I'm hoping for a fast victory for one of these 2 players, so that we have one more shot to potentially get an aggressive red-based deck on the screen. But I don't even know if there's one out there to be watched.
Well, I know if Drew Levin's floating around that.
Yep.
We have one at least.
And we see an Is It Charm from Lou.
Presuming we are choosing the looting option, so it's draw 2, discard 2. Lou mulling over his options. Caleb with a fairly soft hand. It appears to be Selesnya Charm, Centaur Healer, and a 3rd card that I can't make out. Hollowed Fountain hits the graveyard. And Lou wisely unwilling to attack into Caleb's open mana. Caleb's still going to land the Restoration Angel at the end of the turn and knock Lou down to
Sigarda.
And there's
Boom.
Sigarda. A card that's seen a little sideboard play as of late, but not a ton of main deck play. Certainly a very good deal right now. 5/5 flying hexproof, just very challenging to kill.
Look at that Air Force that Caleb has.
Yep. Sigarda can also give you a little bit of protection against the stray Lilianas of the format.
And we see our...
Unburial Rites about to
here
get
we
flashback.
go. It's going to be a big, big Angel coming on out. Nothing that Caleb can do about it. It happens. Boom, boom, boom. Look at all these humans. That's 3 Golden Knight Commanders and a Zealous Conscript. Lots of triggers happening here. Golden Knight Commander gives +1/+1 to all of your creatures whenever a creature comes into play. And let me just check that, says Caleb.
This was another piece of the winning deck. You have the potential for some actual, basically combo kill type scenarios with this sort of reanimation. Zealous Conscript taking a guy.
This is going to give 3 power and toughness to all of Liu Kai's non-Gold Knight Commander creatures, and 2, I got to do the math right, 2 to the non-Gold Knight Commanders and 3 to the Gold Knight Commander cards. Wait, 4 come in? My bad. I said it right the first time. 4 and 3. So that means that Angel is going to get +4. The Zealous Conscript is going to get +4. And those are the 2 that can come on into attack, along with the Fiend Hunter for a +4.
Some pretty impressive technology comes out of those Japanese Grand Prix, that's for sure.
And Caleb is just dead.
Yep. And that is just game.
Yeah, sorry about that math problem for a second there. I had it right, and then I convinced myself I didn't. So we're going to go to the sideboard here, and for Caleb Durward, one of the first things I think he's going to go to is Rest in Peace. It seems like the obvious answer to the graveyard.
Right. Although the Human Reanimator deck can actually play something resembling an Honest Game even the absence of its graveyard. But yes, this is very predicated on reanimating and all those shenanigans you just saw. That's the ideal way this deck wants to be playing out.
Now, one of the things that's really interesting here, we see that Liu has the Staticasters in his deck, but one thing you don't see is the Staticaster's sometimes best friend, the Nightshade Peddler.
Yeah, Brett, shades of Basilisk Caller, Cunning Spark Mage from a couple standard seasons ago.
Yeah.
You give your Pinger Hexproof, Death Touch rather, and start going to work.
It's funny you say that because you say a couple of seasons ago, and it just shows how long we've been thinking about this game, because that wasn't that long ago in the grand history of things. But that was actually a fair while ago, wasn't it? Like a year?
Longer. I mean, it was that Zendikar? Is that 2 and... At the risk of being the 2 old geezers, the time really flies.
It does. It does fly. It does fly. Okay, Caleb Durward here, definitely with Rest in Peace. Do you like Nevermore as a possibility, or do you think that that's going a little bit too far that direction?
I think it's a little bit too far that direction. There's also some risk if Liu has some way to de-emphasize the graveyard, how much it matters. You don't want to be naming cards that either might not be in his deck anymore, or that he's not leaning on as heavily with that card. So
I kind of wonder if Liu's deck is actually pretty well set up for this game 1, and might just bring in another Zealous Conscripts, and then decide on whether or not it wants to run a Rolling Tumbler or Pillar of Flame. Because I mean, he's not actually facing, from what he saw. Remember, he does not have Caleb Durward's deck list in front of him. He did not see a lightning fast start. What did he see for creatures? He saw, a Farseek on turn 2, a Smiter on turn 3, or maybe it was an Angel on turn 3 and a Smiter on turn 4. Yeah. He doesn't necessarily know that Caleb's deck is actually fairly has potential aggressive starts with Arbor Elf and Avacyn's Pilgrim. Yeah,
I mean, he definitely showed. One would have to assume that he would have to have Pilgrim or Arbor Elf or something, because it's very hard to justify playing a deck where your first play is Loxodon and Smiter push.
Yeah.
But Liu might not actually know exactly how Caleb's out there set up. I mean, all the cards Caleb played could have very easily been even in a Bant control shell.
Absolutely.
For all that Liu knows. So.
I mean, Smiter was the one thing that gives a nod to what Caleb might be playing. Smiter likes to punch things in the face, and it kind of speaks to the potential of aggro like we'd expect in this with Arbor and Pilgrim. But Liu didn't see them, and Farseek does not speak to those cards.
Yeah, and I mean, we even saw last week in Las Vegas, Glenn Jones make the elimination rounds with Loxodon Smiter and was otherwise fairly mid-rangey deck. So even the Smiter isn't, you can't be confident, because people have played that card in decks that are just, trying to still get to Angel Serenity and Sphinx's Revelation, but they want a body, and they think Smiter is the best card for the job. So
I mean, I think Smiter is the better Centaur healer when you're dealing with an aggressive deck.
It depends on what reactive elements they're playing. If people are all about Knight of Infamy and Mizium Mortars and that kind of stuff, then I would rather just have the guaranteed gain 3. But certainly if people are not playing removal that works, that card can just be moat.
Yeah.
So it really depends on how the
context.
beatdown. Yeah.
Context always matters. For those of you who are just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan, and I'm here with Patrick Sullivan. No relation other than a love of the game and certain aspects of it. This is SCG Live's open series featuring the Invitational. Now, on our right, Caleb Durward, down a game versus Lukai. Lukai running Human Reanimator, and Caleb Durward with a green-white mid-range deck, which has a real... it's really a mid-range aggro deck.
Yes. With, Triumph of Ferocity?
Mm-hmm. Now, Triumph is a card that has really started seeing a lot of play in the last few months. If you've got it working, you've got your own personal Howling Mine, the way Triumph of Ferocity works. If you control the bigger creature, then you draw a card. And if you have a tie with your opponent, you draw a card too.
So working man's Howling Mine.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
A blue-collar Howling Mine.
There we go. I like that. You got to put in the work.
Yeah, and for the second straight game, both players are going to start with a mulligan. Very impressive setup there from Lukai, coming back from his mulligan to 5. Faithless Looting and is charmed a few times, and Burial Rites, and that was just it.
I mean, one of the things about this crazy Angel of Glory's Rise reanimation is that unlike a lot of the Reanimator decks we've seen recently, it doesn't mess around and wait. It just says you're dead.
Yeah, and I definitely like doing that a lot better than sort of the way the Reanimator decks were being built at first, because if the bad deck was on Sphinx's Revelation plus Angel of Serenity, their late game combo-iness was actually better than yours. And so I would much rather just go... I mean, if you look at the Reanimator decks that have been successful in the past, across all formats, all the years, they are reanimate, you're dead, not reanimate, now I have a dude in play, and we'll play Magic for 8 more turns.
Yeah, I mean, the last time we saw dude in play Reanimator be good was Pro Tour New Orleans 2002,
yes.
Which was a while ago.
I think it's 2000. That was my first PT, 2001.
Oh, 2001? My
yes.
bad. Thank you. I mean, so it's been a while.
It has, yes. Yes, it has.
And now, for those of you who are thinking to yourself, well, what about Legacy, where you'd go reanimate Jin Gitaxias? Well, you might not be dead literally, but you're dead figuratively there.
Yeah, you are, or
Gristlebrand for that matter. Turn 1, Arbor Elf from Caleb Durward.
We're going to play an untapped Steam Vents, and I assume that's going to be enabling a Thought Scour here. Caleb in for 1 with his Arbor Elf. Just setting the turn back. Lou's going to Thought Scour into a land and a Nizzacharm and pick up a Glacial Fortress.
Turn 2, Sulphur Falls, Faithless Looting. It's unfortunate for Caleb that he didn't have a turn 2 play there.
Yeah, and that's a very small operations thing that Lou did that I don't like. Generally speaking, you want to be looting first before you play your land, because who knows if you want that Cascade Blast more than something else. A second looting. Discards Cavern and Steam Vents. So Caleb without a Rest in Peace, but at least Lou is not really doing anything that busted out of his graveyard.
Yeah. How do you feel here about Caleb turn 3 pass, kind of presenting that there's an angel in hand rather than just casting it in case like a counterspell happens or something?
I think I like this play better because he saw Fiend Hunter in the first game.
That's
so
true.
You don't want to expose your angel on the main phase.
That's true. And I mean, obviously, we don't expect counter magic from Reanimator, but it's always a possibility. And there is, in fact, counter magic in Lou's board. It just doesn't hit angels.
Yeah. It would basically have to be, especially with Lou having Faithless Lootings in his graveyard, there's a very good chance he's just going to be using his mana to do this stuff. So
Now, Lou's looting was not very apparently effective there. He didn't seem happy with it, but I can't see the glare. There's a land.
It's a Hallowed Fountain, and there's Rest in Peace.
Boom.
Not that Lou had much good going on to begin with, but now he has nothing at all.
And this also shuts off, I believe, one Faithless Looting in the yard still.
Yeah.
Kills it. Kills it dead.
So
Fiend Hunter, as you talked about earlier. Goodbye, Angel.
Gonna faceless butcher that. Angel. See if Caleb has any follow-up.
I think is it a small Garruk here? I think he might have a Garruk Relentless in his hand.
Maybe a Thragtusk. There's no end of good fives he could have.
Oh, that's a Thrag.
There's a Thragtusk.
Boom. Thragtusk really, for a big, quick second there, was defining Standard. Now it is just a Titan in Standard.
Yeah, it is definitely sets the parameters of the format, but I would say that, Sphinx's Revelation is a much more defining...
Yes.
These are the things you are allowed to do and not allowed to do than Thragtusk is.
Yeah. For a moment there, it was all Thrags.
Yeah.
And now it's just one of the monsters. One of the big, huge, terrible things. And Fiend Hunter again.
Yeah, if you look over the history of Magic, as a format gets more mature, and we're gonna
flooding.
Gonna go flooding.
Funny. So now he puts it on Caleb's land. Why? Just to potentially still mill Caleb out.
Yep.
I mean, it's a long shot, but why not?
Yeah, we aren't reanimating anymore. But yeah, as the format gets more mature, I think the powerful cards are way more likely to be something like Sphinx's Revelation and less likely to be something like Thragtusk.
And Caleb mills himself for 3 in order to cast this Geist Honored Monk. I almost said Geist of Saint Trapped, but it's Geist Honored Monk.
Comes into play with some spirits, and its power and toughness equal to your creatures.
I've always liked the art on this card.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very ethereal, or whatever you want to call it.
Usually I don't look at the art on cards, and sometimes I'm surprised at what's on it. This is one of those ones that I noticed it right away.
Yeah. And Lou is just...
What do we got there?
I believe we might just be casting it might just be a captain. Or commander, rather.
Gold Knight Commander?
Yeah. Much better to be reanimating alongside a bunch of other haste creatures than just sort of
playing it like a powerful limited card. I mean, if you don't look at Lou's land, you'd be like, oh, it's a really powerful limited deck in a weird format.
Yeah.
Okay. And in come the big, huge team.
Yeah. And Caleb's deck isn't really doing anything terribly synergistic. It just has Rest in Peace to shut off most of Lou's powerful stuff, and then just any collection of creatures is going to be pretty good from there.
Yep, and we see a block from Lou here throwing away his Gold Knight Commander. Just trying to stay alive. A second Rest in Peace. Lou, looking at his sideboard, he has no direct answers to Rest in Peace. He just has to, essentially, we go to the game 3 now. He just has to basically play through it.
Yeah. And that was that's like again, this is a fairly minor thing. I'm not exactly sure this would even qualify. This is even necessarily a mistake on Caleb's part. I was a little surprised seeing him play the second Rest in Peace there because of the threat of potentially Detention Sphere as a card that Lou could have there. I guess the counter to that is if Lou has some way to both kill your Rest in Peace and get something in the graveyard and reanimate in one turn, the second copy acts as backup. But I feel like Detention Sphere is much more likely than that sequence of events occurring.
Yeah, yeah. And Lou's deck, if Lou does not have that card, but of course these players do not have each other's deck lists, so you've got to try to make those evaluations as you're going.
Yeah.
And the converse, whether Lou would have, let's say, an Oblivion Ring, for example, it only matters if Lou can put the O-Ring into play and, as Patrick said, actively put stuff in the graveyard and then make use of it, which, given how much mana Lou had, just does not seem like it's going to be realistic.
It would have to be something, disenchant your Rest in Peace, then Thought Scour into Unburial Rites plus card that matters. It's an extremely unlikely sequence. So this is sort of on the fringes of play that matters anyway, but
For those of you who are just joining us, this is the third round of Star City Games Open Series featuring the Invitational. We're in Los Angeles, California. I'm Adrian Sullivan.
Patrick Sullivan.
And on screen, you can see our combatants here in this round 3 matchup. Caleb Durward on the right with green-white mid-range versus Liu Kai on the left with human reanimator. Caleb, as you were saying earlier, one of the real forces, creative forces that are influencing play of Magic throughout tournaments today.
Yeah, he is. I believe he is the one of the best idea guys that is out there. I don't necessarily, when I look at his deck list, I don't necessarily think to myself that is the perfect 75, but I do almost always think, all right, that idea there is awesome, and certainly his tournament performance at this point speaks for itself.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things about Magic, as you get to the higher levels of play, you usually aren't doing everything on your own. You can't be all things to all aspects of the game, so that's why you work with people, so that someone else can say, you know, hey, this is a great idea, how about we change these cards because I was testing and this is how you maybe want to consider it.
Yeah, you definitely, it's very important to have a diversity of skill sets on your testing team, and someone like Caleb would be invaluable to have on a pro testing squad, because he's just going to come up with ideas that other people are not, whether or not they're the best or they can be refined into something better or whatever the case. Having someone who's able to crank out that with that level of creativity and consistency is just incredibly valuable.
I mean, I think one of the reasons that Channel Fireball has had a lot of success is whether or not they've played Conley Wood's decks. Having him in the mix, you know, is one of those things where I think it matters.
Yeah, and what is it, as Liu Kai starts off with the term of Faithless League, and what is having someone like, you know, like Brian Kibble on your team? You just have someone who's going to be cranking out the best green, mid-range, you know, attacking decks. You don't even have to necessarily be playing the deck for that to be super valuable.
Absolutely.
Get a perspective, and you know whatever version of the deck you have is likely to be about as well as it can be built.
Turn 1, Lou's Faithless Looting puts a Zealous Conscripts and an Angel of Glory's Rise in the graveyard, versus turn 1, Caleb Durward with a Arbor Elf.
That's a much more dangerous opening from Lou than we saw in the last game, where his Faithless Lootings and Izzitrons were putting a lot of lands in the graveyard.
Chronic Flooding.
A much maligned common out of Return to Ravnica, now in one of the more significant decks in the format.
I love it when maligned cards see play. It just makes me so happy.
It also implies that there's more out there than what people are playing. I mean, that's one of the things that frustrates me as a deck builder and a commentator at times, is Magic's super open-ended and there's tons of awesome cards, and people often have this perception of, yeah, the 2 decks you saw in the top 8 or the 3 decks you saw in the top 8, that's all you can build. And then when something like this wins a Grand Prix, not only is it awesome because it's different, it implies that there's more stuff hidden that people haven't discovered yet.
And locks it on Smiter on turn 3. I like that you use the word discovered. It's a concept I've been using, I think, ever since Randy Buehler talked about it a million trillion years ago, which is that, you know, R&D, Wizards R&D made these cards, and they had a Far Future League. And these are things that are less designed than they are discovered.
Yes.
Because the cards exist. We see a Chronic Flooding gets a Faithless Looting and some other cards into Liu Kai's yard.
It's like Michelangelo's David or whatever. It was always inside the rock. I just found it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I really think that that's really close to what happens in deck building. And we see damage there. So that, actually, no, that's a Glacial Fortress?
Yep.
Yeah, never mind. So we see... I think is it Charm?
Yeah, that was an Is It Charm.
Oh no! There's the 3 mana for Faithless Looting. Being flashed back. Back to Caleb. Caleb has 5 power on the board. Can he do anything useful here, though? Things are getting close to dangerous.
Yeah, he needs to find. I mean, I think that if he had a Rest in Peace, we would have seen it played pronto.
And he's like, okay, how bad is it going to be if something happens? And there's the Angel, there's a, looks like a Fiend Hunter, a Zealous Conscripts, and I can't make out if there are any other humans in there.
It's going to be really bad, basically.
And Caleb's like, how bad is it going to be? Really bad.
Even if Caleb doesn't get combo killed out of this game, I mean, just the size of Lou's board plus all the damage he deals that turn is going to be very challenging for Caleb to overcome. I mean, Caleb's playing a pretty honest game. He's just dabbing his mana and then playing a pretty good creature. That's what he's trying to do here. And Lou's turn has the potential to be overwhelming.
Now, what Caleb's trying to figure out here is just how dangerous next turn could be. Because remember, Chronic Flooding is going to put 3 surprises into the graveyard.
Yep. And I believe there's an Unburial Rites in there. I mean, it's a very threatening graveyard. So Caleb going over his options. His hand looks like it's a variety of Garrick's. It definitely does not look like Rest in Peace or any sort of other graveyard hate spells in his hand, so. You can play a Borderland Ranger. I mean, his hand just is not set up to really disrupt Lou here.
And in for 4. Oh, and no 3rd mana from Caleb. Borderland Ranger gets a 3rd mana, but it's certainly a little bit less power on the table than if you were to put something else into play, like an Angel, or even putting something sneaky into play like Garrick Relentless.
Yeah, and now that there's no threat of Restoration Angel, those reanimated Fiend Hunters potentially next turn are also just a potential disaster.
And off of that fetched forest comes an Avacyn's Pilgrim. Negate from Liu Kai. Negate apparently his Rest in Peace answer. We see, oh boy.
Oh my goodness.
That was rough. That, oh my goodness, was the Unburial Rites and the Gold Knight Commander, which hit the graveyard. And we're going to see the Unburial Rites be flashed back, bringing back the Angel of Glory's Rise, which in turn brings back Zealous Conscripts, Gold Knight Commander, Fiend Hunter. That's going to be +3 to all creatures, but first on the stack is going to be stealing your creature. What's he going to steal? Looks like he's stealing the Borderland Ranger, I think. Just to get a blocker out of the way.
Well, I think we're actually Fiend Huntering.
And then the Fiend Hunter is going to hit that.
And, okay, and then we're conscripting the Borderland Ranger and Fiend Huntering the Smiter.
And we got plus... In comes the Zealous Conscript, in comes the Borderland Ranger, and they get those bonuses. It's not going to kill Caleb, but what it's going to do is whap him upside the head real good.
Yeah, and it's not like Lou's board goes anywhere. He just has this stuff in play now, so... Things were already looking bad, and that flooding was devastating.
And I mean, at this point, Caleb needs to have a game changer happen, and even if that, I mean, geez, I don't actually see anything that I would imagine would turn around the game unless Lou entirely sputters out here.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb has to basically get to Angel Serenity at this point. It's the only card in his deck really powerful enough to overcome all the damage he's taken, but he can't even cast it this turn. Garrick Relentless entering play. And I believe we are... Not... Alright, so Garrick shot the Fiend Hunter down.
That helps.
Yep.
That helps. And as a result of the 1 power of the Fiend Hunter, this does mean that he still has Garrick around, this time flipped to being Veil Cursed. The Chronic Flooding finds land.
3 lands.
Talking about that sputtering that we were that Caleb has to hope for.
Yep.
And there's still a huge Angel in the air.
Yeah, the worst of this is still not... He's not in the clear just yet, Caleb, because Lou's board is still pretty impressive, and he's got some gas left in his hand. Looks like a Snapcaster Mage, an Izzet Charm, a Negate. I'm going to flashback Faithless Looting, looks like. Oh no, sorry, that was Unburial Rites. We're just going to Unburial Rites the Fiend Hunter. So that's going to trigger the Commander. And we're in with the team.
Yikes. And, talking about cards that were not expected to be seen, there's a bunch of them in play. Chronic Flooding, Angel of Glory's Rise, Gold Knight Commander. These are all exciting cards from that Grand Prix that, previous to this, I bet you that you would have not really had anyone thinking of as real.
Yeah, I mean, decks along this line were sort of hanging around the fringes of, Magic Online, and you found it every now and again, but certainly not as high profile of a finish anywhere near a Grand Prix win. So
Both of these players are sitting at 2-0. Caleb marched in here with his buys to get his 2-0. Lou was playing last round.
Yeah, Caleb, one of our most successful Open Series players, so 2 buys, not hard for him to cobble up when he wins as many Opens as he does.
Yeah.
But he's on the ropes here. He's facing down a ton of pressure.
Lou was in the feature match area last round, not under camera, but I believe that he took out the Goblin Master, and my brain just... Who's our favorite resident Legacy Goblin guy?
We have so many. We have Max Teets, Jim Davis,
There we
Cedric
go.
Phillips.
I believe he hit Jim Davis upside the head last round, but I'm not 100% certain of that because I was across the room. So
the list of Goblins Masters goes deep. John Sonny, Odin Turtenwall, Steve Sadin. There's so many. Trying to narrow it down to one person is just impossible.
I don't know that Steve Sadin is a Goblin Master. I've never seen him play Goblins.
I thought like one of the Grand Prix in like 2000.
No, he beat Goblins in the finals.
No, I know
by
that.
Owen Turtenwald.
Maybe he played it just at one Open, and we were just laughing about the list of Goblins Masters, but...
Now, we talk about all this right now because we're waiting for this block to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to the
Caleb.
game at hand.
There we go.
finally see... Yeah, and that is confirmed that Liu Kai defeated Jim Davis last round.
So we just see a chump block out of Caleb here. I think that attack causes him to fall to 1.
And does Caleb have the win here with this top card? We'll see.
Yeah, Caleb's chump block. Caleb's chump block gave him the...
He is going to turn that elf into an Angel of Serenity. That human, I should say. Well, they're all elves. They'll make 1 mana to make 1 mana.
Right, so Caleb's chump block basically allowed him to keep both of his mana creatures and get to Angel of Serenity. Still not out of the woods by any stretch.
Now, particularly because this is going to reset some of Lou's table, but it keeps Caleb completely tapped out with only 1 defender.
Yeah, the risk Caleb is certainly not dead on board, but this game is by no means stabilized. That's for sure.
So the Fiend Hunter is probably going to go away, which gives him another defender. That'll be 2. Gosh, it's still so dangerous. 1 life.
I mean, I have to assume we're going to let him keep. I guess it's probably let him keep the commander because I don't know.
It's rough.
Certainly Angel and Fiend Hunter have to go, and then after that it's sort of a wash. I think of which other ones you take.
He goes with the conscripts. Ooh, maybe not. The problem is, of course, boom.
Yeah, there we go.
And then the Smiter comes back, and back to you, Lou. A Zealous Conscript is a win. A Pillar of Flames is a win. Is that a...
He's got a Snapcaster in his hand.
Does he? Or is that a Chronic Flooding?
I don't know, he has Snapcasters in his board. Can't tell.
I can't tell with the art because of the glare on the card.
Yeah.
It might be one of each. I think he's got 2 blue 1 cards. Is it Charm could dig him deeper? And I don't know if Lou sided in the pillars or not.
Yeah. I mean,
he goes flooding. Let's see what happens. There's an Angel, Snapcaster, flooding. Now, interestingly, Lou is not dying on the swing here, so Lou has a turn unless something goes crazy.
Yeah.
But that Garrick could search out something dangerous. Is it Charm? Looking. Draw 1. Draw 2. 2 land. Not what he wants.
And Lou just really struggling to find anything to do with those negates. Caleb has been basically clobbering him with creatures this game.
I mean, it's to the point right now where I don't think the negates do what he wants them to do. He should definitely keep 1 land in his hand, but, maybe one of those negates can go. This is a tough call, though.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this depends on just whether or not he has Pillar in his deck, which we don't know.
Yeah.
If he does, then he can just be trying to furiously Izzet Charm and Faithless Looting and find his copy.
Two cards are going to be discarded to this Izzet Charm. Izzet Charm was a card that got a lot of press when it was first printed. And then people kind of started moving away from thinking it was a good card, and now it has reemerged as kind of a role player for certain decks. And I think that that's what it ought to be, is like a role player for a deck that wants to do several different things, or maybe doesn't want to commit to one thing but wants access to those.
Yeah, I mean, I think of all the charms, the Izzet charm is the most. It's not really metagame predicated. It's just, it kind of has its flexibility and its utility. Like Selesnya charm, a lot of its playability just has to do with how many 5-power guys you're looking to kill. You know, Azorius charm is how much do you need, put something back on top of the deck, and Izzet charm is much more just, this is just a lot of good utility.
Yeah.
So if your blue-red deck, you know, can afford it, it's probably supposed to be in there in some number.
And we saw Lou there. Looks like he's going to flood another one of his lands. The discard that he got, nothing too exciting, honestly. So
can we tutor up a Thragtusk here from here, or?
I imagine that we can. There are 4 Thragtusks in the deck list, unless they were all sideboarded out, which I could imagine them being sideboarded out because they come to the party pretty late.
Yeah, but
leaving in one would be nice, though.
Certainly, if you're going to be leaving in your Garrick, then having one seems like a nice option to have.
The power of tutors increases the value of every single one of.
Yep.
Now, don't forget that right now, Caleb's got a 2-turn clock available. There are no hasty creatures in Caleb's main or sideboard, so there aren't ways for him to just end the game now, but he could get out of this danger zone of 1 life.
Yeah. Assuming there's still Thragtusk at the ready.
Yeah, potentially. Now, remember what we needed, what Caleb needed was a moment for Lou to stumble, and he needed to get that Angel of Serenity going, and that's exactly what happened. The Chronic Flooding kind of whiffed for 2 full turns.
Yes. Although, hard to be upset if you're Lou, because his earlier floodings were quite juicy, so.
Yep. And we see Caleb turn his Loxodon Smiter into... We're going to see another Angel so that he can try to wipe out some of Lou's graveyard as well.
Yeah, well,
there's a Thragtusk.
Geist Honored Monk. He's debating between these two.
It's different answers. Geist Honored Monk is going to help protect you against Zealous Conscripts, and the Thragtusk against a card like Pillar.
All right, so we're going and getting the Geist Honored, and you know, Caleb hasn't seen any Pillars, right? So it's hard to.
And we don't even know if Lou brought them in.
Yeah, it's hard to play around them in the dark.
Geist Honored Monk creating 2 1/1 flyers, narrowing the options that Lou has to win down to, I believe at this point, he needs Pillar or else. Actually, that's not 100% true. Amusingly, a Rolling Temblor, if he could get his Golden Knight Commander up to a 3/3, would kill his opponent.
We're flooding. See a Thought Scour and Izzet Charm and a Zealous Conscripts. We're going to use our remaining mana.
And he Izzet Charms, draw 2, discard. Well, he just shows them. Why not?
I think he's... I mean, if he's playing like this, then he has to have Pillar in his deck, right?
I think so. But he doesn't have a Snapcaster in hand right now. Is that a Conscripts?
That is a Conscript.
Not enough.
Caleb potentially being rewarded for diligently playing around Zealous Conscripts here instead of getting the Thragtusk. So it looks like we're flooding for 3.
Faithless Looting. Times 2. Oh boy, decisions.
Yeah. So many permutations here. Do it again.
Let's see what else you got. Angel. Oof. Wow. The sheer amount of graveyard filling ability that this deck has is truly impressive.
Yeah, I mean, the permutations of Lou's turn here is insane. Like, in theory, he even has, well, I can mill myself over into Snapcaster plus Burial Rites plus Pillar of Flame just by milling. It's really, this does not seem like the simplest deck to play, that's for sure.
I mean, one of the things about decks like this, you've seen Lou lean forward into his hand and go, oh God, what do I do? What do I do? Imagine doing that for 8 rounds.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons why I don't choose decks like that. I know that they're powerful, but I worry that I would make all of the wrong decisions when I needed to make the right ones.
Yes, I definitely, certainly at big 2-day events, they're going to go on for a bunch of rounds. I definitely avoided playing certain decks in the past because mental fatigue, not being able to finish your rounds in time, whatever, would just be an issue.
Absolutely.
And this deck would be very much not in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
On that,
I mean,
because of those issues.
I'm no raptor. I'm not going to be able to sit there the whole day and be calm and cool and think it all through clearly.
Yes.
And here we go.
Flashing and looting, I'm assuming here.
There it is. 2 more cards to look at. What do we go? 1. Staticaster. 2.
Fiend Hunter?
Angel.
That, oh,
That's an
Angel.
I'm not sure how much mana he has floating right now. He might not have any floating. Remember that when he was getting the milling from the chronic flooding, that doesn't cost any mana. It's a result of tapping the land.
Yeah.
He's cast looting and flashback looting, so I think he might have 1 mana floating, but I'm not 100% sure of that.
No, I think he tapped 3 because he has 4 permanents tapped on the left, which I think are 2 lands plus 2 floodings.
Yeah, you're correct. You're correct.
I think he just picked up an Is It Staticaster, so he's just trying to figure out if there's something to be done here. I just don't think he can.
I don't think he can survive this turn.
I think the Flying Angel just kills him.
Yeah, as long as Caleb attacks with it. Unless the life totals are off, that angel will finish it, will it not?
Yes, I believe so.
Oh.
Another Garrick. I assume we're just going to shoot down his blocker here. Or try to.
Lou here. And Caleb's like, I'll do some damage to that guy. He's like, hang on a second.
Yeah, I mean, Lou can basically play his Staticaster to get the commander to trade with Garrick, but then Caleb knows he's dead because now he's tapped out and the angel just kills him. So
yeah, I mean, I think that we have no outs here for Lou other than Caleb doing it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
And that's it. Okay, and so what Lou was hoping to do there was hoping that Caleb would not attack with the angel, and perhaps only 1 useful creature would come in, so that Caleb could have his creature, let's say it was just the Geist-Honored Monk, Lou could put the Staticaster in play, block it, shoot down either the Arbor Elves or the tokens, and then have another turn to live and find something.
Yeah.
But Caleb was having none of it. Caleb was like, I'm going to have 2 huge monsters come on in, and you're dead.
Yep, so Caleb Durward winning 1 game on the back of Rest in Peace, and then winning 1 game just sort of on a combination of an early clock, was able to resist / overwhelm Lou's first reanimate by an Angel of Serenity, sort of cleaning things up, and was barely able to squeak that match out at 1 life for multiple turns. So Caleb Durward moves on to 3-0.